Okay. Yeah? Okay. All right. Thank you guys for coming to an intro to DeFi. We're going to talk about the fundamentals of DeFi, just to get everyone acquainted. But before I do that, I want to just sort of share with you why I personally am in DeFi. I'm going to ask a question. I'm pretty sure all of you will raise your hand yes to this, but who here has money in a bank? Right? So what you might not know is that when you put money in a bank, it's no longer legally yours. So in 1848, the House of Lords ruled that in Foley v. Hill that when you deposit funds to a bank, you are an unsecured creditor. And the bank owns the money and you own a promise to get the money back. And in the U.S. Dodd-Frank Act of 2010, solidified that. It's the same reality. The bank failure, derivative holders, everyone else gets assets before you get any assets back if the bank fails. Recently, we've had a lot of examples of this. You might have heard about the Silicon Valley Bank going bankrupt, but what you might not have heard about was last year, 3 million bank accounts were frozen in Thailand, and 86 million were frozen in Vietnam overnight. And all the funds taken back. Oh. So that's a problem. And other issues with traditional finance, we call it TradFi in the crypto space, traditional finance. Your traditional finance experience would be not just the banks, but the New York Stock Exchange, institutions with licenses, anything with regulations. And so in those regulations, typically you'll see that you are not the owner of what you consider to be your assets. CeFi is centralized crypto exchanges, typically Coinbase, Binance, any crypto companies that act like a bank. The difference between those and DeFi is there is no company at all, just code and consensus. And you interact directly with the protocols yourself. And there's some things you need to have in place in order to do that, and we'll go over that during the talk. So DeFi, decentralized finance, is all the financial services you're familiar with the TradFi, lending, borrowing, trading, and earning yield. The difference there is with DeFi, it's completely permissionless. You don't have to ask anyone for permission to participate. You don't have to go through the KYC process. It's non-custodial, meaning no one else has access to your money. You have direct access to all of your money, your crypto. And it's completely transparent. You can see all transactions. That is sort of a plus and a minus. It's a bonus when you really have to track something. And privacy is a big thing right now in the whole crypto space. We do want more privacy, but there's pluses and minuses with both sides of that equation. And it's completely programmable. So this is a big difference because when you make a platform, a DeFi platform, you can just work with the blockchain itself directly, like open source. So the first thing you need in order to interact in the DeFi ecosystem is a wallet. And one of the things we say in crypto is not your keys, not your crypto. So if you keep your crypto in Coinbase or Kraken or any of these CeFi platforms, if they were to go bankrupt, and they have, FTX went bankrupt, we didn't think that was going to happen, then it's gone. Crypto's gone. So it's not your crypto. But if you have the keys, then you have direct control of that. Now, someone could trick you out of those keys, which we have to be careful of, but when you have it yourself, then you have control on where to direct it to and not be subject to bankruptcies. So, one of the first, stablecoins are very popular now. They've been around. They're much more popular now. That's one of the easiest ways to on-ramp. So say you get your wallet, which my roommate got today, got her wallet, and when you want to fund that wallet with crypto, if you don't want to be subject to the volatility of crypto, then you can just get stablecoins in there. And stablecoins themselves earn a decent yield. If you were to get some stable coins, and there's DeFi platforms where you can stake them and you can earn anywhere, I think right now it's a little low, it might be as low as 2%, but typically it's like between 3 to 4%, 5%, and then some platforms can go up to 10, 12% or 14%. And then you can do there's some tricky things you can do in DeFi where you have sort of an arbitrage system. There's all sorts of strategies you can do. Those are the kinds of things I work with my clients. And then you can get 20, 25%, but it gets riskier. The yields get higher, but the risk gets higher as well. But if someone wants to onboard into DeFi and have something really simple, you just get some stable coins, you're not subject to any volatility, and you stake them in platforms that will give you a return. And in DeFi, we have decentralized exchanges. So a centralized exchange is something like Coinbase or Kraken, where you go there and you say you buy some stable coins. You have $100 of USDC, which is $1 to $1 denominated, and then you want to buy some Bitcoin. Actually, Ethereum, because in some DeFi things you can't get Bitcoin. Bitcoin is its own blockchain. When we use it in DeFi, we have to wrap it and go through a process in order to, we do use it, but it has its own rules on its own blockchain. So typically we'll handle anything that's Ethereum compatible. If it's not on the Ethereum blockchain, it's Ethereum compatible typically for these platforms. But what you do is you go to these decentralized exchanges. Two of the very popular ones are Uniswap, PancakeSwap, and you'll swap your USDC for some Ethereum or some other token that you want. And what I typically do is I take the client there, because unless you're actually physically doing the swap, it's hard to get your head around the fact that you don't have to go through a million loops. It's a very simple process, but you just unlock the DEX with your wallet address, which is basically your key to get into all these platforms. And you find the token, you have the token that you have, and then you find the token that you want. And it's a simple switch like that. And whenever I take a client through that process, they're like, that's it? After they hit the button and get the switch, they're like, that's it? That's all I have to do? It's like, yes, that's it. It's simple. Yes?
Need I pay for some extra fee or something?
There is a fee.
Right.
Yes, there is a fee. And it's a very small fee, but every time you do a switch, you pay a fee to the platform. And that fee actually goes to the liquidity providers, which is something else that, oh, there we go. Thanks. I think it's coming back on. I take clients through as how to be a liquidity provider. Yes.
Is it like a swap between one token and one token? Like
Yes.
one. What if the
It's not like one token, one full token. It depends on dollar, like whatever dollar amount to that dollar amount of token. Yes. Yeah. And I don't know if this thing is going to work now. There we go. So another thing you can do in DeFi is you can lend money out or borrow money against the crypto that you already have. There's no credit check. There's nothing except the collateral that you put in. So in DeFi, the beauty of DeFi is that it is sort of fail-safe in the fact that everything's over-collateralized, so it can't go bankrupt. When FTX went out, when all these centralized exchanges went bankrupt, DeFi was untouched because everything's over-collateralized. And the only time, and so if someone does leverage too much in DeFi and their collateral amount comes to the same amount that they borrowed, it just gets liquidated. And DeFi is back to normal. DeFi is balanced again. That investor doesn't have their money, but then DeFi itself is not going bankrupt. So with certain platforms that we have in DeFi, you'll be able to just almost like staking your money, but it's lending. So you're earning a return when you're lending out. And if you wanted to borrow, you can borrow against your own crypto. And just you take a loan less, because loans are tax-free. So if you had enough crypto, say in your treasury, which I show people how to do, then you can take a loan, and if you know how to make a return on that loan more than what you owe, you're living tax-free throughout the year. And so that's very attractive to a lot of people. And so DeFi allows for that too. And then you can pay back the loan whenever you want. Yes?
What do you mean if you make that money grow
Yeah.
out on the loan and that's tax-free? Isn't that taxable?
Which part? The money that you took as a loan is tax-free, yes. And then you can invest it. And then if you earn a yield higher than what you owe on the loan, then you're basically arbitraging.
I see.
Yeah, and so you're keeping the difference there.
Right.
Yeah, so your money is making you money.
What are the interest rates on loans?
It depends with what you take. Typically, people take USDC, and I think right now, Ben, what USDC is 3.3%. It fluctuates between, I'd say, 3 to 5. Yeah, 3 to 5%. So if you're able to make 8, 9, 10% on that stable coin, or even more, then you're keeping the difference, right?
And you do have to pay tax. Like if the coin goes up, if you ever sell it, that's when you pay taxes. So you don't have to,
Yeah.
You don't,
But
you have to
until
sell
then, you
the
don't.
thing.
Yeah, you have to actually
So you
take
do
it
have
out
to
of
pay tax
these.
at some point. It's just not
Right.
you sell.
Yes. Right. So there are risks, of course. There's always risks. With DeFi, we deal with all smart contracts, and so there can be a smart contract risk. If you're ever interacting with the platform, you definitely want to look to see if they've been audited, and audited by a reputable auditor. Because that auditor will go through an entire process, their entire platform, and make sure that the smart contracts don't have huge bugs or huge holes where the funds could be sort of out the back door. And so smart contract risk is sort of always there. But you can mitigate that by just doing some research on the platform or talking to someone who's already done the research. And then the self-custody responsibility can be difficult for people if they lose their key to the wallet. I don't think I mentioned this before. A wallet itself, the money is not in the wallet. Okay, the wallet is a gate to look at your money, to access your money. You can see your money all the time, but you can't access it without the wallet. Okay, so. If something were to happen to that wallet, you can always just take that private key and get a new wallet and use the same private key, and then you have access again. The wallet itself is irrelevant. Yeah. You need those private keys. And if someone else has those private keys, they'll take the money out of the wallet. So they have access to your money. So the custodial responsibility, you having custody of your own private key is a big responsibility. And some people lose those keys. So that's a risk. And then Scams and rug pulls, of course. These are the things we all hear about all the time. Hello. The fact that you have your private keys is one thing, that's good, but there are a lot of social engineering like scammers who are very good at convincing you that they're actually there to help you with something when really they're just setting you up to take your private key and then drain your wallet. So I'd say a majority of the scams outside of rug pulls. So what is a rug pull? A rug pull is when someone sets up, say, like an NFT project, you know, or any kind of, yeah, it happened a lot in NFTs. That's why I'm using that as an example. They do a whole NFT. Everyone would buy those NFTs, and when you think, oh, here it's going to go down this trajectory, and we're going to make all kinds of money at the end of this, and then they just take all the money and run, and you just never hear from them again. That's a rug pull, and that happened all the time with NFTs. But, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Where did it go? Sorry. Did I go too far? Okay, I'll go back. Sorry. Yeah, so rug pulls and scams. The biggest scams are when they're social engineering, or actually also they replicate websites. So whenever you go to a website, make sure you're going to the proper website, because there are entire teams. I think North Korea has a team of 170,000 scammers, you know, working behind this. It's crazy. So yeah, so just only go to the websites you're familiar with and keep your private keys in a very safe place. And then stablecoin volatility. Stablecoin volatility is not good. You don't want to invest in a stablecoin that won't keep the one-to-one dollar. We saw this with Lunaterra, and we don't want to see that again. And so I stick to USDC. I stick to USDT. I have used DAI. I don't use DAI anymore, but I would say stick to those two. Then you'll at least know it's backed by collateral. And I think I went over this one. I didn't. Yeah. Oh no, we did go through that. Except the use cases for DeFi. So DeFi is, the fees in DeFi are much, much smaller than you have in TradFi and CeFi. And so when someone has their own wallet and they're moving money around, you usually have to pay really large fees to do that in the traditional banking system. And with DeFi, I can move $50,000 for like 50 cents, a cent, a few cents, so that's unheard of in traditional banking and anything. So it's embarrassing to admit how much money NFT people moved around. So, but yeah, that's a real use case in DeFi. If you can go direct wallet to wallet, to a family member or something. So remittance is really expensive. International remittance is insane. I used to have to do all kinds of things to move my Vietnam banking money to my American banking money. It was crazy. So, and then of course, anyone who's turned down by a bank or anything, and all the processing, all the hoops you have to jump through to get loans or to get any kind of, borrowing. You don't have to do any of that in DeFi. I could take a loan in 2 minutes against my own crypto, right? So it's really helpful in that way. So several people, we met last night in the ladies' lounge. There's a number of ladies who are starting their crypto journey, and some of the easiest ways to start, I like to bring it down to 3 simple steps. Store, stack, and stake. So you get the wallet so you can store it. So that's store. And then stack is buying the crypto. So you stack crypto, whichever one you choose. And then staking, you can literally stake, where you just put aside, say, Ethereum, and you stake it in a platform called Lido, and you'll get an annual return of 4 or 5%. I'm not sure what Lido's giving, something like that. But it's better than putting money in a bank, because the bank will give you like 0.1% or 0.01%, as far as I know. There's a lot of other ways you can use that crypto and earn higher yields. Yes?
Does staking produce a capital gain?
Yes. So
And how much is it risky?
to stake, well, it depends on who you stake with. Again, you'd want to look at the platform and how well they're known. I like to go with things with the Lindy effect. It's called the Lindy effect. So the longer it's been around, the longer it's likely to be around. So Lido is a very popular staking platform that most people trust. There's a platform called DeFi Llama, and it lists sort of all the DeFi platforms. It's number 2, and then that's saying a lot because there's like thousands of platforms. Yes. What is staking? So it's you putting, say, Ethereum in their system to support the Ethereum ecosystem and the blockchain. So they take a certain, because it's proof of stake, Ethereum is a proof of stake platform. So when they have enough staked ETH, then it's secure. It's the security of the platform. It enables the security. This thing just won't stay alive. So that's staking, and you typically leave it in for years, and get the APR annually. And that's not something you move around. You stake it and leave it, and then you get the return annually.
How is that paid out?
It's through the platform, and typically those things are paid out in real time, over time. There's a vesting period to some of them. It depends on the platform.
Fiat currency?
That one I don't know.
It's whatever.
I think it's what you choose.
Usually it's in the native token. Right?
Usually it's in the native tongue, but sometimes you have a choice.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But
Never mind, it's everything.
Yeah,
It varies.
it varies depending on which platform you're working with and which project.
For Lido, you'll get a token called STETH, which is stake ETH.
Yeah.
And the price of the token will appreciate over time as you use.
Yeah.
So you don't really need to do anything. The value of your token will just go. So the delta between STETH and ETH will keep going up as the token grows value.
So how is that then booked as a capital gain?
That
Because when you switch it, you change. Like you eventually want to sell the STETH.
Yeah.
And then it's the difference that what you bought it for. Got it.
You can delay the selling of that.
Yeah. So you have to
Depending what country you're in, because
STETH rebalance, rebasing, like, and wrap stake ETH is not rebasing. Like, is that not the case? Like,
wrapped stake ETH, like
Yeah.
wrapped
So-
STETH.
Yeah, wrap stake ETH goes up in value if I'm correct in what I recall, and I think the stake ETH rebases. So that's more complicated for the tax situation. Wrap stake ETH is when you convert it. That's the taxable event. When you take ETH, you stake it on Lido's platform, and you get wrap stake ETH. Then you just get like a coin that is not taxable until you swap it back.
It's not taxable.
Until you convert.
Until you convert, yes.
Yeah, but the other one I think is taxable. It's more complicated. I think as you're earning, each increment is income.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of staking. I do a lot of liquidity pool stuff. Yes.
So staking is like fixed deposit.
Fixed deposit? Yes. Like a CD. Yeah.
But the yields can change.
Yeah, the yields vary. Yeah.
On one of your other slides, you said something about earning 15% on something. What was
Potentially
that?
stables.
Huh?
You can earn 15% on stables or on stable ETH pairs when you do liquidity pools, and that's
So
a
if
more
you're like a maker for the swap, then you can get
a market maker. You're a liquidity pool provider. So a liquidity pool is when there are typically there's 2 tokens, and then you provide both tokens, so you're a provider of those tokens. And then when someone comes, it's for a DEX, a decentralized exchange. When someone comes and they want to exchange one for the other, they pay the fee, and the fee goes to the pool. And to whatever extent you contributed to the pool, that's your percentage of the fees that you earned. Yeah.
And for Uniswap versus
You do get an NFT, and so yeah, that
That's like
NFT does
ownership in
move.
that pool, and then
Yeah.
And then you get the fees when you pull it out, right? It's
Yes.
not
You can pull the fees out, but you can also compound them.
and how does the compounding work?
You just you compound it into your principal, essentially, and then so that's your new position, is that amount, with compounding the fees into your original position.
So does it come out with the same withdrawal of the NFT? Or are you saying that if
Well,
you
the
do compound
NFT,
it, you send it to like a different wallet address or something?
the value of the NFT changes depending on how your position changes.
But that's where the fees go, right?
I think the NFT just goes with ownership, because you also see the token. You also see like the token in your wallet.
Okay. Really?
Yes,
Oh.
yeah. So it's like a nested thing. So NFTs can nest tokens. So the NFT is just a basket, and then the token is nested. And the tokens can change the amount, and the amount of the tokens, and also the price amount, of course. But
It's just a way to represent your position.
yeah, it just represents your
For-
position.
People like NFTs, they put an NFT
Yeah.
in their position. So it's just a way to say this is it, and we can make it dynamically so it exists, but it's not. It can represent the whole entire thing, but it's not the thing.
Right.
It's more as
Yeah,
a pointer to the thing.
it's just a way to nest it, and I don't know. Maybe it's just something frilly to offer everyone. I haven't used those NFTs in any way. I do notice they disappear though when I close my position. So
It's just a visual
it's like a visual representation. Yeah.
Read too much into it, you get the money.
Yeah.
You can either sell it or you can put it back
Mhm.
into the position and compound it. Like, it's very simple. NFT irrelevant in the context
Yeah.
of what.
And it's not like the tradable NFTs that we used to have.
Like if you send your NFT to a different wallet, you lose access to the position, so you shouldn't like delete it.
Yeah. You do. You do lose access to the position, right? Yeah. Any more questions on that? So yeah, when you're starting in DeFi, these are the basic ways to get started. I know that there were a number of people asking me to whittle it down to the simplest steps. Get the wallet. This is your first step. And then fund the wallet. Keep your private keys in a very safe place. Don't take a screenshot of it. Write it down with pen and paper. Don't take.
Everything goes in the cloud. So don't-
Yeah, everything goes in the cloud. Photos go in the cloud. People can see that. So don't only write it down with pen and paper, and keep it somewhere safe. And then fund it with some crypto. Fund it with tokens you're familiar with, or at least trust. Okay, start there, and then we'll learn more moving forward, more ways to earn yield on those tokens. And I wanted to give you guys on my website, which is learndefi.com. You can get my link tree here. I have a free video showing you how to download the MetaMask wallet and how to fund that wallet. And this is to my link tree, so you can also WhatsApp me if you have questions, and any other questions you might have. Sure.
Are you a DeFi financial advisor?
I'm a DeFi coach. I'm not a financial advisor. Definitely not a financial advisor.
Is that like a fee-based business?
Yes.
Do you
I have
charge
I have
hourly?
coached. They come in. I do a 4-week program, so I do one-on-one program. Yeah, where I onboard people. But I go into the liquidity pools and how to earn yield and setting up your, digital asset treasury and or how to arbitrage and things like that. More advanced movements.
What would you recommend as the best sources for yield on stablecoins right now?
Are you doing any stablecoin? So I work with, we collaborate with Ben. We tend to do.
I hate doing all the risk stuff. So it's, like Aave would be the best, but
That's the least
because
risky.
I trust that the most, so that's the only one I would recommend in public.
Or Maker
Yeah, like Maker Compound, Aave, all the big things
All
that
the-
have repetition.
yeah.
That's where I would start. And then once you less people have heard of it, then you're inherently taking whatever. When the yield number goes up, then you're taking on more risk, right?
Yeah, yeah, but there are ways to arbitrage them, and depending on which stables you're working with, it's we tend to stick. I tend to stick with liquidity pools, though. Yeah, we're seeing more returns on there for now. Yes.
Not a question, just to.
Oh, sure. Yes.
NFT. But like I'm mostly on Solana and I do like yields a lot. So maybe you want to try Hydro because I know for Hydro it's their state high USD. They can get up to 17%. As a last year they were doing 20%, but it's around 17. Yeah, we don't need to look. There's loop scale for that, but for
Right,
this
yeah,
one we're
right.
just 17%.
Yeah, the Solana ecosystem I know nothing about. Yes. I'm not in Solana at all. Are you? No.
Just
Just ETH, yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for doing that.